classes was a very different process for my students from the traditional classroom because we were moving on into competencies. So I had to give them the discovery board, and it consisted of competencies and performance indicators, learning targets, and for each learning target it had a couple of resources. And students were allowed to choose, and also they had to master the learning targets and show me that they have mastered by getting about 80%. So I had to actually model it every day, tell them what competency was. What is a performance indicator? Where does the learning target actually fit into the competency and the performance indicator? And what are the choices that they had? What does choice really mean? When you open up sort of a personalized learning to the students, you will see how the students are engaged and how they want to learn, how they want to show that they've learned, how they want to compete with each other in order to show that they are learning faster than the other person. So when that happens, every student has a question. Every student wants to be attended to because they want to move on. So the time constraint was definitely a big challenge. It became a challenge to me all of a sudden that I have 35 students in this one particular class and I have to be taking care of each and every student. Time constraint, the preparation and the planning that is needed, that you will be 2 steps ahead of the smartest student in your class, was a challenge. So we have conferences. So when the students are working at different places, they'll come and they'll talk about it. Even though they're working at different places, we do have a time frame. And if the students are not towards the time frame, then we make an action plan. We'll ask them how they were not able to keep up the deadline. Now, personalized learning doesn't mean procrastinated learning. Students have to understand that. It's purposeful, it's progressive, and it's not procrastinated. Because even in the real world, no one wants a person who does not keep the deadline. So I talk about that with my students all the time. So if you're not able to keep up with the deadline, they come with me and we have an action plan as to where they are, how they should be moving forward. Whether it's traditional or personalized learning, we always have unmotivated students. And actually, it gives you a lot more time to deal with these unmotivated students in personalized learning, because some of the students are working on their own, and then you can go and you can attend to these students. I think that when they're unmotivated, there are various reasons as to why they're unmotivated. They might not have the prior knowledge, so they don't understand what we're talking about. Something's going on in their home, and so they are not interested. So as a teacher, I think it's important to spend some time instead of getting angry with these kids, why you're not doing your work. I think you take them aside, talk to them, have a relationship, say a good word or two, be positive with these kids, and tell them that they can move forward too. Maybe you can sit down with them and help them to move forward. And once they see they can move forward, then they're able to have an interest. Basically, you have to understand that somehow our job with those students is to motivate them by showing them some interest in them. There are 3 things that I do where if you learn some learning targets, you can club them and then you can take a quiz. Or you can do a summative at the end, and then we do projects so it shows the application knowledge in the projects. But more than all of this, how do I know that my students have mastered the concept? By talking with them. You have a lot of discourse with your students, and you ask at random questions in the conceptual understanding, and the way they answer you, you know that they have grasped the concept. So I'm assessing my students to know mastery almost every day. I think my students are more engaged because I use authentic learning experiences for them. They're not as just like paper and pencil. So they get excited. Even before I start a unit, they're saying, oh, what is the project that I'm going to do? How am I going to connect this to real life? And I think there's a lot of engagement.